Hi everybody, welcome to Center Stage. I'm Rajiv, and today we have Hector Vizcarrondo from Genesys, Senior Director of Marketing Operations. Hector, why don't you tell us a little bit about Genesys?
Totally. So Genesys is a company that has been, as you said, more than 20 years in the market.
Yeah.
We're kind of in a needle in a haystack. Not many people know us. But we serve many big companies, many Fortune 500 companies in the CX experience, customer experience and contact center technology.
Yep.
So my experience has been working as Senior Director of Marketing Operations, where I have developed tools and I have developed frameworks to understand the performance of marketing across channels and across different groups.
Okay, well, so let's talk a little bit more about that. What kind of tools and frameworks have you developed? We were talking before this specifically about the demand unit waterfall, the framework that you developed, and you recently won an award. Congratulations, the Serious Decisions ROW Award. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about the DUW, demand unit waterfall?
Totally. So I think many companies today use lead-based models, essentially, where you're looking at a lead within the account and try to understand how do you get to conversions from a lead to a closed won opportunity.
Yep.
So this framework, what it does is it rationalize accounts, the account stages in the waterfall by looking at all the contacts, all the interactions, and put them in these different stages to understand whether these accounts are showing intent, early intent, and that is called active demand, or whether or not they're engaging with our website, which is kind of demand engagement, and then you're also looking at prioritized demand, and then these different statuses allow any organization to define what strategies you can run against these accounts.
Okay. What
kind of tactics, whether it is nurturing or early stage, you could do some display advertising.
Sure.
And that's kind of the main concept.
And there's lead scoring and ranking.
So that's part of what we have built already before we even moved to the manual waterfall.
Okay.
So we have a complex lead scoring framework that not only looks at all the activities and provides a score for each of the activities by leveraging multi-touch attribution, but it also looks at predictive analytics, looking at which accounts, which leads have a higher likelihood of conversion using statistical analysis to get to that place.
And we were talking before this, it's very much an account-based marketing approach.
Yes.
And traditionally you're targeting B2B Fortune 500 companies.
Correct.
With your existing product. And your current product, called Pure Cloud, is now targeting more of the SMB market.
Yes, totally. So I think in the past we've been really focused on enterprise customers, and really when we merge or acquire Interactive Intelligence back in 2017, the purpose was to use their product, Pure Cloud, now our product, to have a better share, a higher share of the market in the mid-market and SMB space. And so we've been making big efforts to get into that space. Generally, in those segments, marketing has a more significant impact.
Yeah, tell us why. Why is that the case?
Because in the past, we used to be more focused on events, customer events, and also in working with analyst reports. Making sure we are at the top in the Magic Quadrant.
Sure, which you are.
Which we are. But now, when you're talking about SMB and mid-market, we have to have a better online presence, which means, making our website more transactional, so an engine that is more ready to drive conversions.
Right.
We also need to improve our SEO, so we have been focused on what are the keywords and how we improve our visibility across the different keywords and against our competitors. So we have been improving significantly in the last year, actually.
Okay.
And also,
can we talk about that for a second? Because I think SEO is a great topic, which many marketers know as part of their playbook. I've worked with many SEO firms as well in my past. Tell me about your approach with SEO. What has worked for you? What doesn't work for you? It's a long tail game.
Yes.
You can impart some wisdom on what's been successul at Genesys for you guys.
So I think for us, I'm not really the one managing that process specifically, but I can comment on what we're doing. So we have over 500 keywords that are associated to our product, but we have 20 keywords that drive the most volume of visits.
Yes.
And we have focused on those and compare against. We have compared against what our competitors are in terms of visibility.
Sure.
And we track that. We keep changing the content that we have on our website that we drive through paid search, and that has proven to be a really good strategy.
Yeah, content marketing, the keywords associated on your site, how you're driving SEO traffic to get visibility and page ranking, all of it plays a part.
Correct.
And then SEM sort of is a different way of getting traffic to your site, which is, of course, has a cost to it.
Right.
And so going back to sort of Pure Cloud and the marketing and the website, transactional, a different persona that you're targeting.
Yes.
Yeah, so let's go back to that.
Yeah, so in general, when you're talking about SMB, you're thinking about 2-3 contacts within the company.
As opposed to
20 or
decision makers.
Right, and a longer cycle. So you have a shorter cycle, and you want to have the tools to have them research on what you're providing.
Sure.
And I think part of the challenge that we've had is people know about Genesys, people in the space know about Genesys, but they really don't know that we have a cloud solution that is actually cost efficient and is very reliable. So we're trying to move to that place where people understand what we have in place, and our platform is a lot more robust than what other competitors have in the space.
Got it.
So we're moving in that direction, and we're adding more solutions and more applications than we currently have. So that's as we go. We have a roadmap to include things around chatbots, around marketing automation.
Right, as we were talking about.
Correct.
That's great. And we were also talking about, before we got on camera, about sort of your day, what your typical day looks like. Let's talk about that. What does your typical day look like?
Yeah, I think my focus for the week is always to track how are we performing against our goals and see if there's gaps, understand where the gaps are, connect with the teams, find out what can we do to improve. So we have built very robust BI tools through Tableau, where we host all our data in Snowflake in a big data platform, and then we move all that information in Tableau so we can track this in many areas. So one of the things is one of the first things I do in the week is look at where we are, not in the week, but every day actually.
Sure.
And
across different KPIs and metrics.
Correct. And right now we're not only looking at lead-based frameworks, but now that we have the manual Waterfall, which we were awarded for, now we can track where we are in terms of how many accounts we have in specific segments that are active demand, engaged demand, and pipeline. And that really helps us understand and make a diagnostic of where we are.
Make a diagnostic of where you are, and then provide recommendations and sort of craft your strategy accordingly.
Correct.
Okay. So let's talk about your background and how you got here.
Sure.
Because I think that's an interesting story. Tell us a little bit about sort of your background and how you ended up at Genesys.
Right. So I back in 2003, I moved from Venezuela to the U.S. and I did my MBA at the University of Maryland, and then worked for Capital One, worked in financial services, worked for a couple of other financial service companies, and then I've always been excited with technology, and for that reason I founded a company called Talent.
You got the entrepreneurial bug.
Yes, totally.
You started your own company.
Yes, and I really like that because it's an environment where things happen faster.
Sure.
And also you get to contribute significantly and make an impact. And then was there for 2 years. We got some success, and we really didn't get to where we wanted to get.
Okay.
But I was always thinking about, I want to continue to be in technology.
This was in DC, or was this now in Miami?
I moved to Miami, from DC to Miami.
Okay.
We have our company there.
Yes.
And then I moved here to San Francisco because I wanted to have more exposure to technology. And in the last 4 years, I've been working with Genesys. I think it has been a great experience for me to go look at things in a different way. I've always worked in B2C and now working in B2B.
Right.
Having that understanding of complex buying groups and how does analytics plays a role into how you improve performance.
Sure. And as we were talking, now you're sort of going back to what we're calling B2C as you're targeting the SMB market.
Correct. It's more like that. It's more transactional, the more quicker turnaround and less complex.
I love that story. I love the journey. And so you've been at Genesys for nearly 4 years. And what has that been like since you started to where it is today? What's changed intercompany?
I mean, the company has been global since I joined. I mean, we have operations in many countries. I think or in 100. Yeah,
we have there.
Yeah, so recently we acquire a company, one of our competitors, one of our big competitors, Interactive Intelligence.
Right.
Back in 2017,
which was the
maybe not as recent.
Connect.
Yes.
Pure Cloud.
And they had this Pure Cloud and Pure Connect product, and we were really interested because what we're hearing from the engineers is that the structure that these products have is fantastic, and it allows them to expand the level of complexity that they can work with. And the idea was to kind of acquire this company to get this product, Pure Cloud, at the front, and being able to have that as our cloud offer.
And that doubled the size of the company.
That basically doubled the size of the company.
Right.
We now, before we were about 3,000 employees, we're close to 6,000 employees.
Wow.
And it's been a lot more dynamic for sure. We have teams in many places,
right.
and it's been fun.
That's great. Let's talk about customer experience. How important is customer experience, and why?
I think it's something that not many companies think about, but it's everyone has had a bad experience. We were calling a call center, and you get on the phone for 20 minutes.
100%. I think we can all relate to that.
Exactly. So I think one of the things that Genesys has had for a long time is being able to route calls the right way by using AI, basically, based on whatever words or terms you're describing where you're talking on the phone.
Okay.
We're able to capture that information and say, okay, this is a risky call. We should move or route those calls to a team that focuses on cases where the customer may want to leave.
A higher risk call.
Higher risk call.
Got it. Probability of churn.
Right, exactly. So we use that engine really to determine the likelihood of churn, the likelihood of someone looking for a product. So that's kind of what's behind, has been in the Genesys product for a long time. We're implementing new things, but I think that's the core thing, being able to get to that place where we are getting a better experience for our customers. We have lower churn, and then when we sit down with customers around our value proposition, we have an ROI analysis sheet where we say, okay, this is how much value you're driving because you're implementing our technology.
Better customer experience.
Higher
ROI.
And also higher ROI.
And so how does that relate in terms of brand and brand loyalty for the B2Bs that are leveraging and using your product?
I mean, it's key. It's key in many cases.
Right.
Most companies are really not focused on that, but there's cases where companies have had very bad reviews on how they perform, and that's why they're looking to get a product that allows them to be in a better place.
Got it. That's fantastic. Let me go to some of my questions here. So how are your customers and prospects' needs and values changing, and how will these changes affect the decision-making of customers and prospects?
I think in general, they're looking for cloud solutions, and that's why I think we have been moving in the right direction for a while now. With Pure Cloud, we've expanding the capabilities in Pure Cloud. So I think that is clear that that's the way we want to go. In terms of the way they're shifting, yes, they're also shifting in terms of the way they research about us, and they're looking at what's outside of the Magic Quadrant, what's outside of the events they may attend to. So they're looking at review sites, software review sites like G2 Crowd, Trust Radius, to understand and compare how does Pure Cloud compare to other products in the same space.
And have you found that Trust Radius and G2 Crowd has been an effective way to harness reviews and make an impact in terms of the decision making?
Totally has been great. We have been looking at what kind of conversions, like account progression, by looking at the manual waterfall. We have tools to understand what percentage of accounts in a given stage move to the next stage. That's kind of the benchmark, but then we look at specific channels, which channels are driving that progression. And review size is one that is helping us significantly in progressing accounts from the top of the funnel to the opportunity level.
Great, I love it. Maybe you can describe a time when you developed a creative solution to a problem. We've kind of been talking about this. Is there anything you can think of that you want to add?
Yes, so I think one of the challenges that we have in B2B marketing is our focus has always been on new logos or prospects.
Sure.
But we also have an impact on the install base or customers that we have in place, where we're trying to cross-sell, upsell. Yes. And we, in Genesys, we basically influence a lot of that journey because we have, information on our website, white papers, so on. And we track that. We track that information. We know all the inquiries, how many deals do we impact. But the challenge that we have is when we go to finance and they tell us like, okay, you're driving this revenue for new logo, but how do we make a sense of how much value are you driving for the install base? And I build a framework where I essentially look at all those interactions, marketing interactions, and leverage multi-touch attribution to understand how much value are we driving for the install base. So we set up a metric that is called the total score per active contact.
What is it called?
Total score per active contact.
Total score per active contact. Okay.
And that allows us to understand. So we set up a threshold of 55 points.
Okay.
So once you get to 55 points, we determine that allows us to get to 49% increase in the revenue for install base. So we get that difference in the incremental value. And that has been our number one tool this year. We create a dashboard, we track this across offers, across regions, across channels. And that helps us understand where we can improve and how can we make a sense of how much value are we driving, and then we can go to finance and say, okay, we drive this much value to the new logo, but we also have this much value, we have this much value for the install base.
For upsell and
yes.
Yeah, okay, cross-sell, that's fantastic. In your experience, what is key to developing a good team?
I think what is key is to first allow for open conversations, disregard of the rank or the level of experience. Totally. I think we're lucky in marketing operations because we have a team that is willing to go the next mile every time, and also willing to do things that are not really they feel comfortable with.
Is that because of your leadership style?
It's partly my leadership style. It's also other leaders within marketing operations. I think is a situation where you're basically everyone is adding value, everyone is being heard, and we just want to have that environment where we bring those ideas in, and everyone is willing to do things that are outside of their role, so essentially.
Do you do daily stand-ups with your team, or?
In my team, we basically have two meetings a week where we have 1 hour. We go through the key projects. We go through reprioritizing the things that we have in place, and assigning different tasks, reprioritizing. Sure. And then we also have sort of a short meeting on Thursdays where we look over where we are, see if there's challenges, and see how we as a team can help solve those challenges. So
are there any innovations or trends that you're seeing that really you're excited about?
Within B2B marketing, there's 2 or 3 that we're really interested in. It's around personalization, looking at accounts and how can we select the best tactic, select the best piece of content that you're going to expose customers and prospects to. And so that's in terms of the content, there's some tools that allows you to basically automate the way you select the next best content, piece of content.
So let's talk about that, because we were talking about that offline as well.
Right.
We're talking about this is sort of an account-based marketing approach, personalizing it based on all these different criteria, and then automating it. Give us an example of how that's been effective for you.
Yeah, so we build the manual waterfall framework, and essentially this allows us to segment as a group of accounts in different ways. Not only looking at firmographics where we look at industry size of the company, number of employees, and also predictive rank by using ICP and understanding that, but also the staging. So the manual waterfall stages allow you to know where they are in the cycle, and you may have different tactics depending on where you are, right? So we talk about review sites, that is a good strategy for engaged demand and active demand. May not be for like when you're at the bottom of the funnel.
Right.
So the idea is to use that information and
because you're already so far along.
Right.
You don't need that any longer, that tactic no longer.
Correct. And then we are using a platform that allows us to automate. This is called Terminus. So we can track these accounts that are inactive and early in the process. So this is where they're kind of looking for information about discovery, researching, and we were running both social and display ads, and that's helping us provide more awareness on what we're providing, like Pure Cloud. As I told you, we have an amazing product. Some people don't understand that we have a really good cloud solution in the space, and that's kind of where we're trying to get to.
Got it. Great. What is the single most important advice that you would give a budding director entering this field?
I think it's this whole this position on marketing operations and analytics is evolving significantly. There's a lot more tools. There's a lot more opportunities to grow. And I think what I would suggest is that you build a really strong team. People that you bring in, people that can build, as opposed to just use tools.
Right. Why is that important?
Because there's a lot of tools out there. There's a lot of B2B. There's an explosion of new tools on B2B marketing.
Yeah, data-driven.
Right, and many of them are really not that reliable.
Okay.
So you need to first evaluate the tools you're bringing in. Okay. Know if those tools align with the way you operate today.
Okay.
And also you need to make the integrations, right? So you need to integrate to whatever you want to build. So in the demand waterfall, we have some intent vendors, so we need to integrate that into what we have in place. We also need to integrate Terminus in the way we report.
So customize it based on your business needs and goals.
Correct. But you also need to have a good assessment. So you need to have a really strong technical team in terms of data and systems. And you also need to have a strong analytics team to kind of process that data and make sense of what you can do and building those frameworks as well.
Got it. Great stuff. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about some other things. What sort of keeps you motivated on a daily basis?
I mean, what really motivates me is to drive performance in marketing, creating tools to drive performance, and allowing teams to get great results. So in a creative way. So not just doing whatever everyone is doing.
Right.
Like if you think of the demand waterfall, it's a best practices framework. But the reality is we build it to our operations, and we made many different, we took different routes to that final goal. So, that's what I would say is really exciting for me, is using those analytics, insights, different approaches, and come up with a solution that allows us to perform better.
And you've always had a passion for finance and analytics, so you sort of found your wheelhouse naturally anyway.
Right.
And now you're just excelling at it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's. I think that's what excites me the most. Is like I have that finance background that allows me to, when I sit down with a CFO or someone in finance, we know how to explain what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And creating frameworks that make sense, like around cost of acquisition, around long-term value. Yeah.
That's great. So, what do you think about work-life balance? Do you think that's possible? And if so, how do you manage that?
I think one great thing about Genesys is that there's a focus on work-life balance, and essentially, many times they allow you to work from home. So we have an operation that is global, and we need to connect with people in many places.
Countries,
could be London, Manila,
right?
And that creates challenges. Sometimes you have to have meetings at 7 a.m. Sometimes you have to have meetings at 8 p.m.
Right.
So you need to try to understand that you need to do that as well. Like sometimes you may.
It's not a 9 to 5.
It's not a 9 to 5 job, but you can. I think you can manage work-life balance. When you're working at home, you spend more time with your family.
Sure. You
get to do the things you like to do outside work. So I think that's really critical. Allowing for flexibility.
So that's part of the culture.
Yes.
Knowing that you're going to be doing meetings early in the morning, late at night, so you have the flexibility to do what you need to.
Correct.
As long as you're getting what you need done.
Correct, and you must do, because I mean, as I was saying, like you have to interact with people in many places in the world, and the time zone difference is a challenge. So you need to understand that. And
outside of work, what are some of your hobbies and passions?
I really like to play soccer and play music. I play guitar.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
All right.
And sing sometimes.
What kind of music?
I like rock. I like Spanish rock, and
Like who? Anybody that we know?
Soda Stereo. I don't know if you know. It's an Argentinian band.
No, I don't know.
So
Okay.
it's an old band. They're not playing anymore, but
Okay.
it's one of them, my favorite.
Well, you're in a great area to see live music. San
Yes.
Francisco is a great place for music and culture like that.
Yes.
And soccer, of course. Any favorite players?
Lionel Messi, obviously. My favorite player ever.
Yeah. He's had I don't know, like in the World Cup he didn't do so good.
He's not very being very lucky at the World Cup.
right. Do you have any sort of daily habits or rituals that keeps you focused and productive?
I think the main thing is I start looking at all the emails that I have on my box, and then if there is any red flags, I kind of try to tackle them right away.
Okay.
But I think in general, I always have a to-do list with the key projects that I need to focus on and the calls that I need to make right away.
Sure.
And then prioritize the day based on that.
Thanks so much for your time, Hector.
Thank you, Rajiv.
Hector, anything else you'd like to share with us before we sign off?
Sure. So I just want to reiterate that we have Pure Cloud, which is an SMB software, and we invite you to join us at www.genesys.com.
Awesome. Check out Genesys.com to get more information on Pure Cloud. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Rajiv with Center Stage. Hector, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you.
Thank you.